Saludos a toda la afición de LLO. Este que les habla es Michael Morales Torres, integrante de Lucha Libre Online. Y tenemos el enorme privilegio de presentarles a nuestro invitado especial en la tarde de hoy. Este caballero viene en directo desde Londres, Inglaterra, para el mundo. Parte de la famosa mafia o del grupo más poderoso en el bajo mundo de Inglaterra en su momento dado. Joseph Pyle, el hijo, llega aquí a Lucha Libre Online. Joey, it is an absolute pleasure, man. It's an honor to have you as our guest. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm doing good. The weather's nice, sun is shining, so it's a nice day.
It is a nice day. A sunny day is not that common in London, so you do need to cherish it.
That's true. You know, we've had no summer at all. It's been raining all summer.
Oh wow!
And now we've got like 85 degrees, so it's nice, you know.
So you're having summer on September. That's great.
Yeah, you know, I was saying earlier, I said I'm sure the English weather as a joke with the English people. You know, all the English holiday, when everyone's on holiday, when all the schools are on holiday, it rains. And then when we go back to when they go back to school and everyone goes back to work, we have fantastic weather. You know,
oh man,
God must have a sense of humor. You know.
Joey, I want to talk to you about your career in your life. You have an interesting life story. That's why you created a book. But before we get to the book, I want to talk to you about your childhood, about your parents, about who you are, who you were, racing basically in London. Who's Joey Pyle, and how was his childhood?
Okay, you know, I was basically born into what you might say criminal royalty. My father was commonly regarded as the Don of Dons of all the UK. You know, the day I was born, I had a telegram from Maya Lansky, you know, saying congratulations to my mum. You know, my childhood growing up was different. We had our own set of rules. We had our own set of rules, very clan-like. You know, it was a happy childhood as a child, apart from the times when my father and uncles, everyone else was in prison. And, you know, I spent a lot of my childhood visiting prisons all around England, seeing my father in and out of prison. You know, one of the earliest things I can remember as a child was 6 o'clock in the morning and 50 armed police kicking the door down and running into the bedroom with guns and, you know, and dragging my father out and arresting my mother, and I'm left alone. You know, I'm about 7, 8 years of age, and they just left me in the house. You know, I could hardly use a telephone at that age, and you know, I knocked on the next door neighbour and told them, and then they called my uncle, my aunt, and then my mum got released that night. And you know, my childhood was like that. It was difficult as well with a lot of friends what I made when I was in school. Their parents, they didn't want their children to hang around with me because of my family. You know, it was tough. You know, you make a good friend, and then I'm not allowed to go to his door. I'm not allowed to go to his house, and you know, they're scared. You know, people was like, oh, they're gangsters, they're villains. Don't hang about with them. You know. But it was a funny story that I'll tell you quick. It was one of my friend's parents. He said to his son, don't hang around with me. And then my father, a few years later, bought an interest in a double glazing company. And guess who was working for the company? The guy, the parent. You know, so, you know, how funny is that? He didn't want his son hanging around with me, but he didn't mind working for my father, you know, in later years, you know. So that was a funny thing. But you know, it was different. It was a different childhood. A lot of big guys, a lot of well-known gangsters coming in and out of the house and stuff like that. So, but I've got no complaints. Life, what it is.
You mentioned something that was key in the beginning of the interview. You were part of basically the gangsters or the mafia royalty in the UK. You were born in this world. At what age you realized that your father and your family were more powerful than the rest of the guys in common London? Like you may grew basically in a luxurious lifestyle, but as a kid, when did you realize your family was different economically and power status compared to the rest of the families from your friends, for example?
It was relatively early, you know, because I was brought up in an area which you might say is middle class. It wasn't poor, it wasn't rich, it was middle. And a lot of my friends' fathers were driving about in average cars. They dressed average. You know, my father was driving about in Rolls Royces and convertible Corvettes and dressed in silk suits and silk, you know, and he looked tough, my father, and all his friends looked tough. Where my friends at school, their fathers looked like a working man. You know, they were beaten. You know, life had beaten them up. And like, you know, with my father and all his friends, you know, they lived fast. And, you know, they were smiling, they were joking. They was always, you know, always up to something. And you know, from an early age, my father used to bring all his friends back to our house, our home, and they'd all sit up late at night and play cards. And they'd get a table out and play craps. And I would look on the stairs. I'd look on the stairs, and then they'd go like, "Joe, come down," and they'd call me down, and they'd tell me to shape up boxing. They go like, "Come and shape up," bang, 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 like shape up. And they used to give me like £5. And this one they give me £10. And, you know, and I'd go to bed in you know, with like today's currency about $200. You know, I was about 5, 6 years old. 5, 6 old, and you know, and then, you know, and I see my father punch a guy once when I was young. We was driving down the road, and he just stopped in the middle of the road. He just got out of the car, bang, he hit someone, and it's the first time, you know, this was real. I could hear the punches, I could see the blood, I could hear the guy screaming. You know, the guy screaming, "Please, please don't, Joe, please stop." And my dad's hitting him, and his face is coming out. And you know, this is not what you see on TV. You know, no. It's a lot different when you're 10 foot away from it. You know, and the look on my dad's face. You know, and you know, and then you start picking things up. You know what I mean, from that type of age. You know, and also, you know, and also early at school, like, there was certain things at school I wasn't allowed to do, which other children were allowed to do, you know, things like, you know, if you had like a week, sometimes you had like a home week or something where guys would come around your house. Well, I wasn't allowed, no one was allowed to come to my house. You know, it wasn't, you know, and then you always say, no, it's why? And then you find out why, you know, and then, you know, I think I was about 8 or 10. And my father was in the front page of the Sun, which is a newspaper, you know, like the New York Times.
Yeah.
Like the front page, big picture of my father. You know, gangster arrested, friend of the craze, you know, stuff like that. I cut it out and put it on my wall. You know, so,
you had the opportunity to do many things in your life, but for example, in Latin America, there's Pablo Escobar, there's El Chapo Guzman. They, you know, they always protected their business. That was their mentality. It was their business, or they were going to protect it. As a young person raising, you know, growing up in London and being raised inside basically the criminal royalty of the UK, you thought that you were going to follow your father's footsteps in the family business, or you wanted to do something different?
It's a double-edged question. There was always easy money. You know, when you've got contacts,
yeah,
there's a way of earning easy money. But ever since a young age, I wanted to build a big company. I wanted, whether it be a company that, you know, whatever, you know, somewhere where the cops can't put you in prison for, you know. But then you can go down the road and earn $10,000 in one day. Or, you know, it was hard. It was, you know, well, it was too easy to earn money then back in the day. Of course, you get in trouble. And then when you get in trouble, you get put in prison. And I got put in prison, you know, like my father. And then that limits you. And also, I had with my name had certain benefits, but in a certain world. Outside of that world, it was a hindrance. It wasn't a benefit. Mm-hmm. You know, I'll give you a quick example. When I was in early 20s, I formed a union. My name to form the union was good. But when the union started to become big, and I needed to start talking to people like politicians and the aristocracy, well, they didn't want to do business with me because of my name. It didn't matter if I had a good thing. They just didn't want to do business with me. They said, no, we can't get involved with him. If you get involved with him, it'll be a protection racket. He'll end up owning your business. He'll end up, you know, once you get these guys in your world, you never get them out of your world. And even if they ain't true, I still had to carry that baggage. You know, I mean, I always had that weight on my shoulder. So it's a double-edged answer, really. Do you know what I mean? The easy buck was always there, but yes, I always wanted to branch out and go into the correct route, the legal route, you know.
Yeah, man. How do you got involved with the boxing industry, and what was your exact role over there? Because we've seen videos, I saw one of your interviews as well, but I want to talk a little bit more about that as well. Like, how do you got involved into the boxing industry, and why boxing? Like, you could have go, I don't know, cricket, football, basically anything.
Well, my father was a professional boxer.
Yeah.
And, you know, back when I grew up in the 70s, you did boxing in school. Yeah. You know, it was a big sport then. It wasn't like it is today, politically correct and all the other crap. You know, everyone boxed as kids. You all boxed. You know, especially if you're brought up in like an area which isn't a rich area, boxing was a popular sport. You know, like council kids. You know, they all box or play football, soccer as you call it. But my father was a professional boxer, and then he had a pal called Roy Shaw. Roy was he was in prison for armed robbery, and when he was in prison, no one could control him. He was out of control. He ended up getting sent to Broadmoor Asylum, where they put drugs in him, trying to calm him down and everything. And but when he come out, he had a big name. He was very well known as a tough guy, and he tried to get his boxing license, but because he was too old, he'd been to prison. What you've got, like in America, the Nevada State Commission or New York State Commission, what you've got in the UK is the British Boxing Board of Control. They control boxing in the UK, and they refused him his license. So he had two options. We had one option, then it was go in a car park and fight bare knuckle. You know, but my father, being the businessman, there was one guy, he was called the King of the Gypsies, tough guy. He wanted to fight Roy for £50,000 they put in each. And my father saw how many people wanted to go, and he went. He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get a great big circus tent. I'm going to put hot dogs in there. I'm going to put beer in there, and charge everyone 20 quid to come in, and turn it into an event." And that was the birth of what we call unlicensed boxing. They call it unlicensed boxing, which makes it sound illicit and illegal, but it ain't. You know, but it was more rough. It was, got to stick your head in or elbow or kick the guy on the floor. And, you know, it was boxing for the tough guys down the bars. You know, that's what it is. And then when I got older, I became an amateur boxer. When I was a kid, I had a lot of fights, and then I ended up breaking my leg. And when I was 16, I broke my leg on a motorbike, getting away from the law. And then all of a sudden I come out of the hospital, was training, and then I got put in prison. And then all of a sudden I'm like 28, 29, and I'm too old to go professional. So, you know, we said, why don't we be a promoter? And that is what we done. I became a promoter, and I was the youngest ever promoter in Britain. You know, I was 28 years of age. And you know, I was the youngest ever promoter to stage a world title fight. And, you know, stage shows at Wembley. I put now 200-300 contests. So, you know, I love the game. I just love the boxing.
So your family basically ran the biggest underground boxing promotion in the whole UK as well. This was a huge business. Like in Puerto Rico, at one point there were a lot of fight clubs, but what you guys organized over there, it was really well organized. Once again, it was pretty big. So how lucrative was to organize this kind of, you know, boxing and bare knuckle fighting around with, you know, the circus stand, the whole dynamic. How good for business was to add this new chapter to the family?
Oh, it was absolutely huge. It created a what today is £1 billion industry. £1 billion, not million, £1 billion. You know, and because no one thought they could do it in them days. You know, everyone by one of these things, but my father, just because he hated authority, you know, and he loved pushing the boundaries, he just said, let's do it. And now there's more unlicensed shows going on in 1 week in the UK than what there is in the professional shows in a whole year. You know, the industry is massive. It is you know, so many guys who used to fight for me, and you know, they say, Joe, I'd be dead now if I didn't do boxing. If you didn't get me in the sport, or I'd be doing 20 years in prison. You know, there's so many guys like that, and we created a thing what was called, it's an English word, what they call the governor, and it's not spelt like the GOVERN.
With you.
You know, it's governor, like Cockney, like London, which is GUVNOR. And the governor, in like London language, London slang, meant the top boy, the top man, you know, the toughest guy on the street. So we created this title, and it just happened. It was the governor title, and the governor title now is royalty. It is almost sacrosanct. It is, you know, it is, you know, fighters from all over the country will give their right arm to be called a governor. You know, and it's we run that title still. It's vacant at the moment, but you know, because of the COVID crap and all that. Once that finishes, we might bring it back up again. But it's huge. You know, if you're looking at, if you go on YouTube and type in the governor, you know, you get Lenny McLean, Roy Shaw. There are hundreds of millions of views on their fights. You know, Roy Shaw had a book, Lenny McLean had a book, both books bestsellers. Both books sold a million copies each, you know. And this was all down to my father and a guy called Alex Steeman, who just sat there and you know, and just went, right, well, we do it. You know, we're basically make bare knuckle fighting sexy. You know, we take it out the car parks and we put a small pair of 6-ounce gloves on them, and we'll put it in the arena. You know, and they've done that, and it's history. You know, the government, you know, the book what I've just done with it, which tells all the history on it. That one, and you know, that's been a bestseller now for 12 months. you know, a bestseller on the #1, knocked Tyson Fury off the top spot, knocked Mike Tyson off the top spot. And I haven't marketed the book at all. You know, it's self-published, and you know, no publishers, self-published. It's done it all myself. And you know, but that goes to show what you know, how much interest there is in that illicit backroom barroom boxing. You know?
Why did you decided to write a book? Like, it's not that common for a person that's inside this underground or illegal industry to just come forward and say, hey, this is what I lived, this is my experience, this is our business, this is our industry, this is who we are. Like, you didn't want it to hide. You are proud of what you did, your family, you're proud of your family, of your heritage, and of all your, you know, your businesses and everything. But one thing is that, and another thing completely different is, you know, writing a book about it. How did you came with the idea of doing this?
Well, it was, you know, look, I've been involved in quite a few books and mentioned in a lot of books, you know, going back Craze, the Cray books, the Cray twins, stuff like that. But the governor title, over social media, there's so much controversy, yeah, and so many people telling lies and saying and making their own opinions, and in the end, to be honest with you, like, it pissed me off. You know, it pissed me off, and I said, look, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to tell you the facts. This is what happened. This is behind the scenes. This is what happened. This is how this guy won the title. This is how he won the title. This is who he fought. This is who he fought. And just to shut people up. You know, there's guys going around and they're saying, I won the governor title. And I'm like, well, where did you win it? Because you didn't win it on my show. You know, and if you didn't win it on my show, then how did you win the governor title? You know, it has to be endorsed by us. It's, you know, but there's things in the book. There's some stories and laughs and some jokes and some things we got up to. You know, about 80%, 90% of things in the book, which we, you know, things I can't put in the book. You know what I mean? But you know, but the things I can put in the book, well, they're all dead now. They've all passed on. So you know, but I still, you know, I still treated every single one with respect. I didn't
Yes.
I didn't, you know, I didn't talk anyone down. And even when in a situation where I've got to explain a guy lost, you know, I try to put it in a nice way. Because, you know, I don't believe you should ever, you know, say something about a man who's not there to defend himself. So if you're going to say something, you should say something nice, really, you know. Or unless he's a rat or a piece of shit, and you can say what you want. You know, but if a guy's okay, you know, you've got to show the man the respect he's due. Yeah. You know.
Where's the book? I mean, it's in Amazon.com or the international card as well, but is it available in Barnes and Noble as well in the US?
I haven't put it anywhere else apart from Amazon.
Okay,
no,
it's Amazon.com.
I don't know whether they put it anywhere else. So, but it's definitely in, you know, it's on Amazon. That's where it was, amazon.co.uk or amazon.com. It's on.
Perfect. I'll say that in Spanish as well. Even though this is going to have closed caption at one point. El libro está disponible en amazon.com para todos los que puedan adquirirlo. Es una excelente pieza. Este fue y es el rey del boxeo ilegal, del boxeo underground en el Reino Unido. Te tiene la historia de toda la familia de Joey Pyle. La historia está increíble, las cosas que se pueden contar, como él dice, está en ese libro. Esta es la familia que tiene mucho que ver con correr todo este sistema ilegal en el Reino Unido, que lo lleva a Europa, que lo lleva a Estados Unidos, que lo lleva a Sudamérica, que lo lleva a México, a todas partes. El libro está disponible en amazon.com y va a aparecer aquí abajo en la descripción. Joey, at one point, you expanded your reach and you met, you know, more people, not only in the UK, and you met one particular person that I want to talk about right now, and that's the Hollywood fixer himself, Ori Spado. How do you get the opportunity to meet him and work with Ori? How did that happen?
Oh, he's a great guy. You know, he's a great guy. He was friends with my father before me, and I was in prison at the time when they struck up their friendship. And then when I come out, we was involved in the music industry, and we was managing a lot of hot acts. A guy called Mark Morrison, who sung Return of the Mac. He's probably one of the famous guys. And then through Ori, you know, we started doing some business in Los Angeles, and there was a guy over there who got himself in trouble with Suge Knight, and he ended up owing Suge Knight some money. Suge Knight was a friend of Ori's, and he went to Ori and said, you know, and then Ori reached out to us and said, you know, there's a guy in London who owes some money, and you know, Suge Knight got his money back, and you know, and we all ended up friends. You know, we all ended up pals, and then I went over to Los Angeles a few times. Flew out there with I flew out there to visit Suge when he was up in Sacramento. He was in prison in Sacramento, and we flew there, and then we flew back, and I had a few weeks there, and then I've gone back and forth, and you know, I've done business ever since. You know, I was sleeping on his couch for bloody God knows how long. You know, it was. I was going to book in the Beverly Hills Hotel or something. You know, he said, "No, you're staying here." You know, so I went, "Oh, okay." You know, you put the couch out. You know what I mean? I'm laying on the couch. You know, but I was meant to be 1 week. I think I stayed about a month. You know, and it was funny. After about 4 days, I went to a couple of guys knew me, and they had a bar in Hollywood Boulevard. And it was a restaurant upstairs, and underneath it was a bar, and they had some problems with the gangs, and the guy wanted $100,000 to get out of it. So the guys took me down there. He's got Joe come so I got him within half an hour of talking to the guy. The guy wants to pay me to be his partner. You know, now you know, and he said, "Well, you know." I said, "What about the problem with it?" He was about the problem with the gangs. I said, "Well, I'm not worried." I said, "You know, if it's my part now, it's a different story." You know what I mean? I said, "If we got a problem, then there's a problem." You know what I mean? Yeah. But you know, but then I went back to Ori. I went, "Ori, listen, we just got a club." You know. Oh, he was like, "Oh, Joe, that club," you know. And he told me the history of it, and he said it'd be nothing but trouble. Nothing but he said there'd be no money, but you'll end up in a county jail within 1 week. You know what I mean? So we found out of it. You know, but we're still doing business today. We're still doing business today on the films and the movies and stuff like that. You know, and always one of the good guys. You know what I mean? He's one of the. You know, he's solid, and I count him as a very, very dear friend. You know, someone I could trust. I do.
Yeah, man. So your family and yourself, like, not many people can say this, but you've met a lot of people in your life. You got people come, people, you know, pass by as well. Due to the position you were as well, what was the craziest name that you had at the front at one moment, or at the side, or that you met at one point that I'm like, okay, holy crap, I met this? Like, for example, Ori told me Sinatra. Like, he grew up watching Sinatra on TV, and to him that blew his mind that he had the opportunity to meet him. To Joey Pyle Jr., who was the person that blew your mind? Like, okay, I'm meeting this person, I cannot believe it.
Oh. Oh, that's a tough one. There's been so many. There really has been so many. You know, I've met most people in the music industry, most people in the film industry. You know, stayed with a lot of them. You know, at their houses and stuff. You know, I'll tell you a funny story. It was, you know, Henry Hill, the rat.
Okay.
Yeah, he came over to England. He came over to England, and he was doing these audiences. He was doing like an audience where he sits down and people pay money, and they go in, he's going to sit there and talk and sign autographs and all that stuff. And it was up north. And I got wind he was going to do it in London. So I phoned the guy up, I phoned the organizer up. I said, don't bring Emil to London. He's not welcome. I said he's a dog, he's a rat, he's an informant. I said, do not bring him to London. And the next thing I know, I've got Emil's girlfriend phone me up. And she's going, hi, is that Mr. Pyle? And I'm like, yeah. So I said, you don't know the story. I went, well, stop now. I said, if you're going to start trying to explain to me why a guy ratted on all his friends, forget it. I said, because in London, we don't rat. You know what I mean? I said, you know, we'd rather get hung or do 50 years in prison. We don't tell tales. We're not rats. You know, I put the phone there. So I barred Henry Hill from London. So, you know, I suppose that's quite a famous one, Goodfellas. You know, but another one, I suppose, one of the most famous persons I've been very close to was I never actually got the chance to meet her, but I was she was it was the Queen.
Jesus freaking Christ.
And we was at the theatre, and she was in the royal box, and I was in the royal box next to her. With all my gangster friends, you know, I could have literally leant over like that, tapped her on the shoulder. You know. So I suppose that was quite funny. You know.
Man, what a freaking story! Like, you had the Queen next to you. That's mind blowing. Oh, let's analyze this.
I've got a picture of it in the book.
You have a picture of that in the book.
I've got a picture of that in the book. Yeah, me, the Queen's there, and I'm standing next to her. You know, she's in what they call the royal box, and I'm in the next box. You know, at the Palladium, in a Palladium Theatre.
Oh man, that's simply mind blowing. That's one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful person in the freaking world right now.
I'll tell you another one who contacted me just before COVID was Pablo Escobar's brother. He just got out of prison.
Oh.
Is it Carlos? I think Carlos. And it come through a third person. And it was to do with his paintings, all his paintings. Because I was in the film industry, someone said, Joe, do you want to take a film crew out there and do a documentary on Carlos and all that? And I was like, can you imagine the authorities when they hear me going to Escobar's place? You know, I was like, that was a funny thing. Yeah, but then COVID hit, and
it got stuck.
Yeah, we couldn't get out. You know,
COVID screwed everything for everyone basically. Joey, you lived so many things throughout your life. If you know, that kid that was growing up, that was part and is still part of criminal royalty, not only the UK, but in the whole freaking world, your life, it's been a roller coaster ride. Do you feel happy with what you've lived and what you've experienced and what you've accomplished so far as a human?
I feel what I've accomplished, I'm happy with, because my accomplishments in my life, what I'm proud of, is things what I've done for friends or family. It's not that I bought a Maserati or a Lamborghini. You know, as I've got older now, I've realised that I can't take riches to the grave with me. But what I can take to the grave with me is my name for my children, where people can say, your father was never a rat. Your father was never a dog. He was a good man. He was someone you could trust, a friend. Looking back on life, everyone's got regrets. There's silly things you've done at certain times, and but none of us can turn the clock back. We just got to, what we say, take the rough with the smooth. As long as I can look myself in the mirror and know I've never done something intentional which is wrong, then as far as I'm concerned, you know, whatever I've done in life is good. And if there is a God up there, you know, hopefully, you know, he'd turn around and say you was a good human being. You know, you don't hurt people. You don't hurt, but you only get into arguments or hurt your own people what want to hurt you. You know, I've never gone out and wanted to hurt someone who doesn't want to hurt me. So you know, on that side of it, it's like a soldier, really. You know, when you look at a soldier in the war, you know, would you say they're damned to go to hell because of what they've done? You know, it's a funny thing, but you know, for my children, though, what I say to them now is my way of life is a dinosaur. It's finished. You know, I've got no choice to live the way I live now because you know, I do things. You know, I do things which I was brought up to do with. But today you've got to know everything. You know, mobile phones and bank accounts and bloody online. You've got to know all that stuff now. You know, when we was kid, your bank account was under the bed. You know, in a shoebox. You know, that was your bank account.
Under the mattress or something like that.
Yeah, you know, a hole in so you know, open field, the back garden, different holes where you buried your money. You know, but nowadays everything's you know, and it's a saying what I said. You know, a couple of people I said, you know, if you want to be a crook or you want to be a villain now, then be a politician. You know, be a banker. You know, they're the crooks now. You know, you guys. You know, if you go out now and you want to, I never wanted to be a crook. I never ever woke up in the morning and gone, I'm going to be a gangster. I'm going to be a villain. What I did was our way of life. You know, it was our way of life. I didn't look at it as doing something. I didn't look at it as doing wrong. You know, if you wanted to go and rob a bank, you know, you think, you know, how's that wrong? You know, I'm not a multi-millionaire come out of Cambridge politician. You know what I mean? I'm a kid and the thing. You know, but that's the way you think when you're young. But all that way is finished now. Your cameras everywhere. There's, you know, and I say to my kids, go and get a job. Be a plumber. Be a job as an electrician. You know, they're earning $2,000 a week. Good living. Find a nice woman. Have a stress-free life. You got a job. You can go on holiday twice a year. You haven't got to worry about bills. You can own a house. You know, you can have a nice, quiet life without the phone going. Oh, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know, it's fun while it lasts, but there's more lows than ups in that life for sure. You know.
Man, before we go to our last question, I wanted to thank you so much for your time, and thanks to Mark from Ireland as well, a crazy Irish bastard, for making this possible. Last but not least, society tagged you and tagged your family as villains, quote unquote. What does make a villain, like, what makes a villain smile? Like, what makes a villain happy? What makes you, Joey Pyle Jr., smile every day? You know, what makes, besides, you know, coffee and a good beer, like, what makes you happy? What makes you smile in life?
What makes me smile? It makes you smile, I suppose, just having a stress-free day. If you wake up in the morning, the sun's shining, and you can sit there, have a coffee, and think, what am I going to do today? Oh, sunbathe. You know, I sit, put my feet up and sunbathe. You know, another thing, taking my girl out to the theatre or taking her out for a meal. You know, living life like normal people live. You know, I've done all the driving up the road in Lamborghinis, and you know, walking into nightclubs with £10,000 worth of clothes on you, and you know, I've done all that. I'm 54 now. You know, so for me now, it's the peaceful and quiet life, and helping people as well. You know, if you can help someone, And afterwards, they actually, you know, you don't help someone to get a thank you. But when you help someone and they do give you a thank you, that's always nice. That puts a smile on your face. You know what I mean? You know.
Man, that's the happiness is like literally on the small things in life we have every day, when we experience every day, and we should cherish them. So thank you very much for that message, Joey. It's been an absolute honor to have you as your guest. Wishing you success, happiness, and joy in your life. And let's hope to see more books to come with good stories, with good photos of you and the Queen. And let's hope to see more of you in social media, on YouTube, on basically everywhere, man. It's been an absolute honor to have you as our guest, and have a great rest of your day, sir. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks. And God bless.
Amen. And let's wrap this up en español. Este fue Joey Pyle Jr., considerado por muchos el villano más grande de Reino Unido, y Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online.